this is your girl, Lyja, and together with me are Keith and Kylie. We are your hosts for today, and we are welcoming you to the first and ever ETHINKS podcast, where we talk and think about anything related to ethics. Gets nyo ba? Ethics? Kasi think tapos ethics? Ethics plus thinks. ETHINKS. Alright, we're gonna talk about the golden rule, share our thoughts about it, and maybe even take a short trip down the memory lane. Together, we will all think about ethics, and for today's episode 1, we will talk about the golden rule theorem. Are you guys familiar with it? If not, you probably know it, you just don't realize you know it. If that doesn't make sense, it's time to call our one and only Keith to tell us what is the golden rule. Hi, Keith!
Hi, welcome to the ETHINKS podcast. My name is Kate, and for today's topic, we're going to talk about the golden rule. First things first, what is a golden rule? We have this widely known quote, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or as we all know as the golden rule. It is a notion of treating others the same way that one would like to be treated. Everyone has a right to fair and reasonable treatment as well as the responsibility to treat others fairly. This has evolved into a moral code of ethics that understood and expected around the world. Basically, we need to be more concerned about others and consider how our actions may affect them. Before reacting in wrath or with hatred, we must consider how the other person feels, or in other words, we must put ourselves in their shoes and respond accordingly. Sometimes ask yourselves, do I want someone to respond to me in this manner? And to fully understand what Golden Rule is all about, let's call some of our special guests to share their experiences that they think apply this rule. I introduce you our first guest from Santo Tomas City, Kyle.
Hi, it's Kyle, and here I am to share a bit of my experience from when I applied the Golden Rule to my actions. So, a few years back, I let my friend borrow one of my hardcover books. I was a bit hesitant to the idea at first, but she assured me that she'll take care of it and give it back without a scratch. Spoiler alert, that is not what happened. So, a week later, she returned it in such poor condition past the point of fixing. There were torn pages here and there and bite marks from her dog. She apologized a few times over and over, and I was upset, not gonna lie. Like, do you have any idea how pricey hardcover books are? They're so expensive. So in the end, I made her choose to pay me back or buy the book for me, which she did the first option. I think my reaction was warranted, knowing that if I did the same mistake, I would have done the same thing to compensate for the owner.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. So, based on Kyle's experience, we can conclude that he'll do the same thing what his friend did if she made the same mistake. Just like what I said a while ago, Golden Rule is doing things that you also want to be done to you. So, to give us more further example, I introduce you to our second guest who loves to spend her time watching movies, Miss Nadine.
So yes, hello. So I relate mine with my complicated friendship years ago. So as we all know, there was an issue with the girl best friend and boy best friend thingy. So I had a boy best friend and he is a really good best friend. We were so cool to each other and super close rin talaga namin. But the time came, he had a girlfriend. And just like what I said, the girl best friend and boy best friend was an issue. So I've been hearing my name with our common friends saying that his girlfriend is not comfortable with me, when in fact I already distanced myself with my best friend right after I found out he have a girlfriend. Because I know what the girl might feel or might feel. So the highlight of this experience, dinistansya ko yung sarili ko. When I found out that he have a girlfriend, right after I found out he have a girlfriend, even di ko pa alam na yung girl is not comfortable with me, I already distanced myself. Why? Because if I'm in her situation, di rin ako magiging comfy. Like, I don't want my partner having different best friend. well, it could be me, right? Why not me? So, yun, if I don't want it to happen to me, then I don't want it also to happen to her. Because I know what's the feeling. So, yeah, that's my experience.
Right, thanks Nadine. What a familiar scenario it is. We all know this girl best friend and boy best friend issue, right? So I'm assuming that you all get what Nadine just shared with us.
That is what the golden rule is. Is there a difference between that and this quote, treat others as you want to be treated?
Just not the golden rule anymore, but the literal golden rule instead. For that, let's have our dear co-host Kylie to discuss their differences.
Hi, our dear listeners. I am Kylie, a nursing student of LPU Laguna. So let us talk about the difference of literal rule and golden rule. When we say literal rule, it means regardless of the outcome, the literal and ordinary meaning of the words must be followed. So while on the other hand, the golden rule is applied to change the meaning of the provision if the literal interpretation would lead to absurdity in the given situation. So to learn more about this, may we call on our pretty guest a warm welcome to Miss Teen Hernandez.
Hello everyone, my name is Dustin and you can call me Teen from BSN 1-2. Anyways guys, I just want to share my experience about literal rules with these occurrences about Lego and no ID, no entry policy. First of all, my experience with the literal rule is about Lego. When my boyfriend and I ate at Wendy's, after we finished our food, we thoroughly clean our table, sanitize it, and put the tray on the tray bin. For me, I understood the meaning of Lego because its direct meaning is instilled in the word itself, clean as you go. And lastly, my experience that I'm going to share with all of you is about no ID, no entry policy. I experienced this all throughout my school years, and having these rules implemented is another example of a literal rule. As it clearly states, if you have no ID, you cannot enter the said campus.
Thank you for sharing that to us, Miss Hernandez. We are really glad that you are sharing it with us. So, it explains that Lego is a really good practice to minimize risks to hygiene, health, and safety. And the ID no entry policy enables us to maintain the campus security and safety. On to our next guest. May we call on Miss Enriquez to give us some examples of the literal rule that led to absurdity.
Thank you, Miss Kylie. Offering or selling illicit items is one example of the literal rule that leads to absurdity. And I want to share with you my cousin's experience, which I think is relatable to this topic. So someone offered him a jewelry that has a high price, and because he liked it, he agreed to buy it from the seller. However, he suddenly discovered that the seller had a case of theft.
Thank you for that example, Miss Enriquez. So, literal rule states that regardless of the result, the word's common meaning must be adhered to. And when a literal interpretation would be absurd in a particular circumstance, the golden rule is used to change the meaning.
Alright, I hope that everything is clear between the golden rule and the literature rule. But before we go on, one of our guests wants to ask us a question regarding the golden rule and literature rule. Let's call Miss Abby for her question. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Abby.
Hi, I want to ask what about masochist?
Okay, that's a good question, Abby. In Masochist's case, if he applied the literal rule, it would be, if you want X to torture you, then torture X.
That is one of the defective desires, right?
Then, in dealing with masochist cases, we need to insist on the same situation clause in golden rule. Let us suppose that Siri is considering to torture Alexa, who is not a masochist. To apply the golden rule, Siri should ask herself, am I willing that if I were in the exact place of non-masochist Alexa, then should I be tortured?
Typical masochists desire physical or emotional pain because this brings some sort of satisfaction, perhaps of a sexual, religious, or athletic nature. So Siri will not get the satisfaction if he were in the place of a non-masochist, because the masochist should imagine himself in the same situation.
But what if Siri isn't a typical masochist and want to be tortured because of irrational self-hatred?
We strive to help Ima understand himself better, including the reasons behind his hatred, appreciate himself, and experience positive ways of living. Perhaps we can rationally combat his self-hatred. If he learned to love himself, he could eventually learn to love others as well, using the golden rule.
Thank you for that, Miss Kylie and everyone. I hope we solved that masochist case. Alright guys, we don't end here just yet because there is so much more to know about the golden rule, and we will discover more about that with some of our friends that are here today to join us. Hi friends!
Yes, you're actually right about that, Miss Lyja. Did you all guys know that the golden rule is almost like a global principle that is common to all people at all times?
That's crazily amazing. It is widely supported among various religions and cultures around the world. Yeah, you name it: Baha'i, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Taoism, and the other world religions support GR.
That is so true. With diverse cultures in our interactive global community, there is a real need for these common standards.
To add more things related to religion, in the Christian Bible, we have this verse, Matthew 7 verse 12. So, in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. We must give an account to God for our own actions because we don't want to be responsible for causing another person to fall.
Think how golden rule is related to love your neighbor. Well, those two works well together because golden rule needs love and vice versa. Love needs golden rule. Why is that?
It's because love your neighbor is a motivation that tells us to act out of genuine concern for others. Most of us have heard this passage at one point or another in our lives. As we rise each morning, let us determine to respond with love and kindness to whatever might come our way. If you love, you care. If you care, you love. Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah, I totally agree with you that if you love them, you don't want them to be hurt, right?
Let me add this up. So, golden rule is one of the ways to translate love into action. And we can love if we imagine ourselves in our neighbors, place and act only in ways that we are willing to be treated in the same situation. So, if we want other people to love us the way that we want to be loved, we should be treating them how we want to be loved. For them to treat us the same. Same goes for if we want other people to be kind to us, we should be kind to them as well.
Many also might wonder if it is the same as the treat others as they treat you. It's confusing, right?
Yes, it is, but it's really different because it's like if he ghosted you, then ghost him back. Seems fair, right? Deserve. But this treat others as they treat you would lead to endless revenge. GR guides us to be consistent to act if we're really willing to be treated that way in the same situation.
Yeah, GR guide us to realize our duties to others. But what about us? Some might be also wondering if there is the same principle that applies to ourselves.
Yes, there are principles of consistency that apply to ourselves, which are the self-regard and future regard principle.
If we are treating ourselves in a way that we wouldn't want others to treat themselves in the same situation, then we violate the self-regard principle. To understand that better, let's have our dear guest, Lauren, to share some of her experience about this.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Keith, and you're actually right. Let me share one of the best example that I know many of you can actually relate with. Back in 2019, I decided to leave my manipulative and abusive ex-boyfriend. We were together for 1.5 years. He found me at my deepest and most vulnerable state. That's why even the slightest amount of care that was being shown or given to me, I would think of it as genuine love that I would constantly cling on and will refuse to let go. In the course of our relationship, he constantly cheats and gaslights me, have sex with gays just for extra money, humiliate me in front of many people. He is everything you'll never wanted. I was so blinded by my love for him that I wasn't able to see how much damage I was inflicting myself until he was out of my life. My BFF actually is experiencing the same with her current partner at that time. The irony in there is I've been giving her advices to leave the guy because she doesn't deserve to be treated that way. That she doesn't have to be afraid of letting that guy go because someone out there is a man who sees her value. But guess what? How will I expect her to believe in me if I cannot be able to apply it in myself?
Alright, thanks Lauren. So we all heard what Lauren just shared with us, and I think it's a really nice example, or it's a really nice scenario that we can rely to understand the topic much better. Now the other is, if we treat ourselves in the future in a way that we wouldn't want to be treated by ourselves in the past, we are being inconsistent. And a while ago, if I said that we violated the self-regard principle, now we violate the future regard principle. Speaking of future regard principle, let's hear some from our next guest Trisha to share us her example regarding this principle.
I was with my cousin the first time I passed out from alcohol. After taking a nap, I woke up and had a terrible headache. I vomited my guts out and it was such a horrendous experience for me. Therefore, I am not satisfied with my experience with it, as, in contrast to people with high tolerance, getting drunk has a bad effect on me. I felt sorry for myself at that time because, really, what was I in that situation for? And in retrospect, I don't believe that consuming alcoholic beverage has any benefits for me, so I stopped doing it and would only drink in moderation for social purposes.
So that means imagining yourself in that particular situation in the future, but doesn't really want to experience that situation. Who would like to have a hangover anyway? It feels so bad, right?
The GR is about how you treat the particular person. What if your action affects to others?
In this case, we will insert the universal law. The formula of universal law is a generalization of the golden rule. It includes cases where you're in a place of someone affected by your action, or where someone you care about is in your place, or at a future time experiencing the consequences of your actions.
Isn't it so nice to have others treat you so positively? Especially when you treat them with the respect you want to receive as well. But the same can go with how others treat you too. If they treat you badly, cut your ties with them and move on. You deserve so much better, even if it's difficult. And to everyone out there wanting to keep good relationships, you should learn to show love, respect towards the people closest to them, or even new people they would meet in the future.
Thank you for that summary, Mr. Sebastian. We will be ending the podcast here, and we are happy that you joined us and hoping that you have learned the difference between the golden rule and the literature rule. Again, thanks to everyone who made our episode 1 possible. This has been your girls, Elijah, Keith, and Kylie, and we hope that we will see you on our next ETHINKS podcast. Bye, guys!
Bye everyone! See you on our next one!
Thank you and goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening to us.